Hey, thanks for joining. This is going to be long. So sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
I just can't do it. I just can't do it.
just crack on with the questions and that.
Okay.
Have you got something written down, or are you just doing it?
I've spent fucking ages writing them to make sure that I don't do this, only to then immediately do this. Okay. Hey.
Hello.
You all right?
No.
Oh, God. Thanks for agreeing to do this interview.
Yes, okay.
And thank you for agreeing to be Tusk Fringe 2020 Artist in Residence for the Old Police House this year. It's been, how do we describe it? A hell of a year, maybe, for the world.
Yeah, it's been pretty fucked up.
Yeah, to say the least. But thanks again anyway for agreeing to do this. And I have a couple of questions to ask you about stuff that you've done and stuff that you've got coming out now as part of your residency. The first thing I want to ask you about is the music that you make. And I know that I've collaborated with you quite a lot over the last couple of years. And I feel like there's a bit of a kinship between us that we have, where we both enjoy working with collaborators and the challenge of working with someone with a very different discipline and who's going to present something that's very different to what you normally would do by yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about like performances and collaborations, like you work with Filthy Turd down the plug hole.
Yeah.
And Clive Henry with Fractures and more recently with The Doll. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those collaborations and some things that have happened?
How do you mean? I mean, to me, they're just like collaboration is kind of like just pretty much like a natural thing. It's just like talking to someone, I suppose, but in a different way. It's like, I don't know, everyone that I've collaborated with, it's gone all right, and it has been like a conversation. We're just using different shit, so it's hard to like dig out individual stories from it all unless you can pinpoint some to ask about. But for me, it's kind of like I don't know, they're all good, so it's
Oh yeah, no, I know that. So working with Filthy Turd, so Filthy Turd has a very distinctive sound and approach to working. Can you tell me a little bit about how you decided and how you collaborated together?
Everybody's got a distinctive sound that I've worked with. I just do the shit that I do, and they just do the shit that they do, and hope that we both instinctively make space for each other. I mean, Filthy Turd sent me a ton of fucking things. He said, I'd like to do this, and I'd like this to come in here. And I'm like, well, I don't normally work like this, but fuck it, I'll see what I can do. And I sent some things back saying, oh well, I'm going to do this then, and like whatever. And it's like, when it actually happened, we didn't do any of the stuff that we talked about. You know, he just came in, like, I can't remember what he did, but it was really loud, and I just did what I did, which was loud. And it was like, you know, we left enough spaces for each other, and that was that. I mean, and other people, there isn't that conversation, and I'm kind of like, in a lot of ways, I'm not into having that conversation that much, because it, like I said, with Filthy Turd, it didn't, what we talked about, it's like it didn't happen. And it's like, some of the stuff he was like going on about was like, oh, we'll try and time it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's something I do loads in improvisation, you know, like timing things to the minute. No, it's not. So, and it's not, I don't know, I guess it's just the way he wants to work before it. But for me, that's like, if you working with someone who knows what they're doing or has been doing this for long enough, then all you can really hope for is that they'll leave you some space and you leave them some space, and it'll be like a conversation. And that's, you know, it seems to work out. If people have been doing it for a while and are good at what they do, then that's what happens. It's
That was for Tempting Failure
Yeah,
Festival.
it was like the third, fourth I'd done with Clive. I've forgotten. I've lost track now. But we, yeah, that's again. There's some vague planning and like for those, especially at the beginning when we knew each other less. But then it's sort of like, well, let's not bother with much planning. You know. Again, it's like we knew we were going to use strobes for that, and we had like we wanted a restricted space and stuff like that. But beyond that, you know, it was again just another conversation and stuff. So,
I've sawn your hand off. 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 Fracture, repair, fracture, repair. I've sawn. I've sawn your hand off. I think I can reattach it. I think I can.
And how did you team up with the doll to work together?
We just happened to be back to back on a couple of compilations, and I can't remember. One of us pointed out to the other. I think I might have done. I can't remember. And we just said, well, why not make something together ourselves? And then luckily, before she fucked off back to New Zealand, we got a chance to play live as well. So.
I wanted to ask you about some of the solo works that you've made, because I know that I have a lot of your stuff because you send me that stuff as a friend, and I don't think all of it's released. I think my favorite solo thing, I like the track Trachea, mainly because I like that word as well, but like all the noise that's going on inside it with your vocals, I love. But also Shit Mobile Disco, which I love. I've used that at the gym.
Shit. Shit Mobile Disco on the train station concourse. No one is dancing. No one.
I love that track so much because it's just so regular and it just goes wild in the middle and it's nuts. And I just think, I mean, you're very distinctive as a vocal artist and also as a visual artist, as a sound artist, and all the different things that you work with, to the point where you are so admired in the scene that Robert Ridley Shackleton made a track, which I think I must have DJ'd that track at least 20 times, YOL for President, which is just fucking amazing. God love Robert Ridley Shackleton. But you put something out on his label. So I'm gonna ask you about the visuals, about your visual artwork. I don't think I want to call it themes about images that you like to use, but there are times where you play with particular images and that comes back. It's almost characteristic, but then the next thing that I see you've made is like got nothing to do with the last thing. So
like there isn't really a theme. If anything, it's just well, no, it's not even this, but sometimes I sort of think of it as a vague attempt to create my own set of emojis, but that's like, it's not that at all, really. It's just, I don't know, it just is what it is, really. It's,
we've been really lucky as the old police house that you've been really kind and shared images and made images for us for Tusk. and this is the 3rd year that you've shared images with us for Tusk, and last year with the skull that was open, that has the cafetiere pouring straight in. I mean, that's one of my favorite YOL images anyway. I have that on the wall behind me. And I absolutely love that. I mean, that for me encapsulates exactly the essence and exactly what happens at Tusk Fringe. And I think you just completely nailed that and got that right. There are certain images that come up sometimes. And I remember going to see an exhibition that you had in Leeds. And you had certain images that were all in lanyards. And there was a couple of very distinctive images that I remember talking to you about, like particular buildings, and there was a clock. There were certain images that were fractured, and there were like whole parts of them elsewhere in the exhibition. Can you tell us a little bit about the process, about how you make imagery and the creative process behind that?
No.
Hey.
I just draw and then I'll not easily. No, I can't easily tell you about it because I just do it. I suppose it's like it's just a dumb way to kill time. Half part of it, you know, it is just sort of. I don't know. I just kind of I grew up drawing, never stopped. Luckily, I didn't go to school that much, so they didn't kick it out of me. And, you know, there's never anyone around to tell me not to. So, or to tell me that what I was doing was wrong or shit. So I just carried on and on and on and on. So there isn't that much of a conscious thought process in it. And that's across the, because I don't really see much distinction between visual art and like yelling and shit.
Take the risk or lose the hand, amputate the strong breath. Take the amputated. Take the risk. The whole is greater than the.
It's all the, you know, it's just me doing whatever. And there isn't necessarily, I don't sit down and think, right, I want to draw this or I want to make this or things. There are just, I'll write things down, I'll sketch things, you know, and then I'll just like basically put my hand in a big pile of this shit and like pull it out. And that's where you get, you know, the image, a lot of the imagery, it is kind of almost pulled out at random or pulled out, you know, just, or not at random, but it's just kind of like, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but there isn't I don't think, right, I'm going to put this with this because I want to achieve this. I just think I'll put these things together and see where it goes and hope that it goes to where I want it to, and if it doesn't, I'll bin it.
Chicken! Chicken army, chicken nugget army, chicken arm, chicken nugget army, chicken arm, chicken nugget arm.
I don't know. That is as good as you're gonna get. You know.
It's a very good answer, by the way.
It's not much better than the no, though, is it? If we're on it.
I think I'm going to have the no and then that bit. Do you have a favourite place that you've performed in before?
I don't know. I mean, I like, I really hope it's not liked. I hope it will still be there after all this is over. The floor at Wolf Chambers. That's possibly one of my favourite floors. I like the old police house, the Gateshead one. I kind of like them all, though. There's something about every space that's different to the other two others. So I don't know. Every time you go somewhere new, or back to the same place or whatever, it's all sort of like slightly different. So all of them, I don't think there's, you know.
The old police house asked you to come and perform at Tusk Festival, and you worked with Rest. Can you tell us a little bit about how you both decided you would work together? Because for me, that was an absolute dream duo coming together. And I remember it was a lot of people came very specifically to see that performance. Can you tell us anything about that?
Not really, no. I mean, like,
I love this.
I can't remember what me and Jamie talked about before we did it or anything like that. But at the end of the day, he knows what I do. I know what he does. And that's that. We were just going to get on and do our shit. I don't know, when I work with people, it's kind of like people are just going to do their shit. I'm going to do my shit, and it'll probably work. And if it doesn't, you know, it doesn't. That's kind of it, really. And it was the same with Jamie. I knew pretty much what he was going to do and what volume it would be at, and and yeah, I think we vaguely discussed maybe some themes or something like that, but I don't think we stuck to them or anything like that. I think I might have sent him like the words I was going to use, but I might not have used those words on the day.
So I know that in the last year or so that you've spent a lot of time focusing and working with video more.
Yeah.
And what kind of apps are you using or programs, and how are you approaching working with video?
Really simply, pretty much like just Zoom call. I'm just turning shit on and seeing what happens. I'm using my phone, and I'm just using like iMovie because it's what I've got. So, and I don't really know anything about editing and stuff like that. I only found out recently that you can change the volume on stuff. I only found out recently that you can overlay stuff and like, little tricks like that. And no, it's just been, what have I got around? Use that. It's the same as everything, it is just like, if I've got it near me, I'll use it. If I had a better camera, I would have used a better camera. If I had, better editing things, I would have used better editing things. But I've got what I've got, and that's,
A thousand words about sourdough starter. Gone now. Gone. Gone now. Gone. It's wrong. It's fine.
like, well, I'll still use it, but the tripod that I've got is fucked. So it's like, I've set it up and watched the camera sort of like slide down and stuff and all that kind of shit. But it's just part of it, isn't it? It's weird though. It's kind of like as opposed to like just recording something and having a recording device there with when you're filming it and shit, and you've got like a phone or whatever, would be the same if it was a camera. I am more conscious of it than I am of a recording device. It's kind of weird.
Everything.
It's harder to just sink into doing it in a way, because like you've got to think about where it's going, what positioning, where you are in relation to it. You've got to not kick it over or stamp on it or any of that kind of shit, because it's my phone and I kind of need it for being a phone and all that kind of stuff. I've got sort of used to it now, but I'm not sure I'd say I like it. And it's kind of weird doing some of the stuff that I've done for Tusk, Fringe and shit. I mean, like, when I finished, that's been, because if you finish a performance and in front of actual people, then it's kind of like, right, okay, it's this thing. And then when you do it to a camera in an empty room, it's another thing. It's kind of like, I've done it, and like for however many minutes, I've kind of like not been thinking about stuff, but then it's kind of like, a couple of times when I finished a performance or whatever to camera, and I'm sort of like just coming down from it or whatever, and it's kind of like you suddenly start thinking like, oh yeah, I'm in this room there's no other fucker here. It's like COVID outside and like all that shit. Like for about 10, 15 minutes, I've forgotten about that, and then suddenly it's all back in, and you just it's massively different to just perform in front of people. I think it's sort of, it's not depressing enough for me to want to not do it because it's all that there is, I suppose, at the moment. But it can be a bit, of a different come down than a normal performance. Even a normal performance to a recording device, it's a stranger sort of thing.
I mean, you've been really active. I mean, inevitably we have to talk about the lockdown and touch on that, just because basically we're in the middle of that pandemic still, if not at the beginning of it. But you've been very active, and you've still made a great deal of work. I mean, there've been a couple of very busy sort of DIY promoters who've had online TV shows. So there's the Heinous Whining from Territorial Goblin,
Yeah.
Isolated Mass by Giblet Gusset, by Kerry, and then of course Police House, we've had one as well, and you contributed to ours as well. How have you enjoyed doing that kind of stuff?
I don't know. I'm not. Yes and no. I mean, it's kind of, it goes back to what I said about like, it's all we've got, or it has been all we've got, and it probably will be, let's face it, for quite a while. And so it's more like adapted to it. I don't know if I've been. The thing is, though, I don't know. People, it's like back when we used to do normal gigs and travel around and all that kind of shit, and like people who knew that I'd gone away and that would be like, "Oh yeah, did you enjoy it?" I'd be struggling to answer that then as well. So I'm not sure enjoy is sort of like what I'm after with what I'm doing. I don't know what I am after, but I don't know. To say that I enjoy any of it, whether it's the normal live stuff or whether it's this stuff, is quite a strange thing to say anyway. It's more like something that I just do. I don't know. Like, yeah.
But do you feel like there have been positives from the DIY promoters putting stuff online? Do you feel like that's been a positive thing, or have you taken any?
Oh yeah, it's better that like that stuff happened and didn't happen. Like I think this would have been a lot more miserable without like the Police House and Kerry and Theo putting shit on. I think it probably would have been harder to get through all this stuff, because it's kind of like you get a vague sense of connection and stuff, and it's a bit like Twitter and shit like that. It's just you get to see that people are still alive and all that kind of shit. And some form of contact, not quite the same as real life, but better than none. Yeah, it's but it's the thing that gets me also is a little bit like if you do if I do a thing, if I make something and then I'm in that moment and then I'm like out of it. Normally when it's a live thing, I'm out of that moment and I'm still in a physical space, which is usually different to the one that I'm normally in. And there are people around and stuff. But like now it's kind of like that happened a while ago. And then like days later, it's getting shown. There's a disconnect there for me. It's kind of weird with that. I don't know if other people have experienced that or not, but like for me, it's like, oh yeah, here's that thing that I did ages ago, even though it's like just days or whatever, but it feels, time has gone weird. And yeah, there's that kind of disconnection with that. It's kind of. No, I completely understand what you're saying, and I have that kind of thing as well, where I've recorded something for a performance and then sent it, and it's pre-recorded, and then I'll see it and I'm like, oh, that's so, it just feels so,
It's because it's not me live, although it was recorded live and in one take. You're like me as well, like you just do it there and then and get it in one take sort of live. And but then it's kind of like I kind of almost can't stand to watch myself. At the same time, I'm like, oh yeah, man, that was all right, yeah. Oh, it did work. Oh, well, kind of. and it leads me on the question really about Tusk 2020, because this year we've had to go virtual. And Tusk Festival and Police House for Tusk Fringe, we had the conversation quite early on. It came to about April and we started having a conversation about what do we think is going to happen and how can we do this and run this.
Yeah, I remember you asking me. Like,
and it's a real shame that we couldn't do this in real life, and it's a real shame that that we don't have that live audience with us in real life, but we do know that we're going to have a large audience online, and actually I think that there are positives with it being online, that people who couldn't have come to Newcastle to see Tusk, or who wouldn't normally have actually just watched it, because Tusk have streamed for a few years online, they would now be involved and come and watch it. And this year, because every year the artist in residence at Tusk Fringe plays the main stage too, and you've collaborated with Sharon Gal, which I cannot wait to see, by the way. Can you tell us a little bit about that, or is it another hard no? I kind of want it to be.
It kind of is. I mean, like, it was kind of basically, I just made it. I mean, we talked for a little bit once, and you know, she'd watched like what I'd made. I'd watched what she'd made, and she was saying about how she wanted like sort of like various different segments and stuff, and things like that. But at the time, I just had some neighbours move in, so like I can't really use my flat anymore to record. So I was kind of like, shit, what do I do? I mean, there's one point where I was thinking this might come to nothing, or I'm going to have to get on a train and come to Newcastle and like, you know, just cram a day's work into fucking the Alphabet space or wherever I could get my hands on. But I got access to space in Hull, but it's kind of like I still didn't know how long I was going to have it for. So I tried to keep what Sharon had said in mind, but at the end of the day, it was a case for me a little bit of, right, this space might disappear like quite quickly, so I've just got to get a lot of shit down and get it done.
Yeah.
And then which is what I basically did, made as much as possible, and then just like bombarded her with it basically, and pretty much left her to sort it all out from there. So it was a strange one. I mean, like I can't remember when we said it, but we were saying, you know, like when we were trying to make vague plans and shit, you know, she was like, well, if this was like genuine, normally live, we wouldn't bother saying anything. You know, nothing to be said, just fucking switch on what we need to switch on and kick off. But this is a bit different, and it's worked out well. It's been interesting to do, but it's kind of like, yeah, it was quite a strange one. But again, that's just another long-winded no to whatever it was.
That was a great no. That had a really good explanation in it. Well, for Tusk Fringe this year, you've made a couple of different videos, and they are very distinctly different from each other, which I think is a challenge for any artist solo to work on. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about some of the locations that I've seen in some of the videos, because obviously I'm privileged now. I got to see them before everyone else got to see them. So I wanted to ask you about the Don't Paint video. Where is that filmed, and what is it looking out onto?
That's filmed in the same place as. Well, that's filmed in the place Red Contemporary, which used to be Red Gallery in Hull. Some of the people that run that, they before it got like flattened ages ago, they've got access to this space, and it's all in there. So, and it's like part of the shopping centre, but it looks out onto this street that you walk down to get to another big shopping centre. So that's where that was.
No one will mistake it for her. No, don't paint your head. You're the balding head. No one will mistake it for hair. No one will mistake it for hair. No one will. No, oh no! No one will mistake it for hair.
And it's just like, you know, that was just, there's like these little weird windows at the top, and that's just out of them for the don't paint one. And all the other crap that was in it on the floor was just the stuff that I used to make the noises in that video.
And how much can they hear? Is that are you under a bridge somewhere?
How much can they hear? How much can people doing TikTok dance to broken phone neighbor on curved horizontal rainbow drawn by flat earther neighbor? How much can they hear? How much can they hear for flat earther horizontal rainbow? How much can they hear broken phone TikTok dance neighbor? How much can they hear?
You're on about like the bit under the bridge?
Yes.
That's kind of like a place where homeless people sleep sometimes, but like they get cleared out a lot, so there was no one there. But there's a car park that, next to it. So like when I was making that, I was like looking around, one, to not tread on the camera, and then two, to see whether people were like looking at their cars and try or get, you know, because I was like yelling quite loud, and I was thinking they're probably going to think that I'm going to come over and like steal their cars or wreck them or something like that. So that was a weird one to make, like there. But
you kind of tell it all in the video. And there's that incredible interrogation scene kind of thing where you're like, you know, you're looking at the camera across the table. I totally love that bit.
Yeah, again, that's in that red gallery space. You know.
And is this relaxing? Was that also recorded in the red gallery space then?
Yeah. Well, Red Contemporary they're called now, because like I said, the gallery got smashed, and this is like a temporary place they've got now. I don't know how long they'll hold on to it for. Probably not that long, because well, I don't know. I hope they do, but like they had like because it's like a shop unit, and you've got like the downstairs. It's like this glass windowed shop thing, which goes out onto the street, and then above it, you've got the bit that I was using. But they had like some things in the downstairs thing, just to put things in the space, you know, like some old anti-Nazi League things and the Black Lives Matter stuff like that, and they got like complaints and stuff, and I had to take some of that down. So I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold on to that as place as space. It depends how they decide to use it, I suppose. But
I don't really know how to end this interview. I think the next thing that I should ask is, what do we think the future is going to hold? And I kind of feel like,
I think it's
how can I ask that?
Really, I think we're into this for quite a fucking while.
I agree. I absolutely fucking know that.
I don't really know.
No, I'm very certain. I'm very certain that.
I mean, I'm meant to be doing this thing, like Anne Bean's meant to be coming up on Thursday next week, and we're meant to be doing something, and it's going to be like an outdoors thing, but I'm in two minds for two reasons. Like, one, you know, it's a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but it's several people, and, you know, they could have COVID or whatever, which I'm thinking I'm not happy about that. But another thing I'm not happy about is, like, if I go there and take part in it, like what I do, I mean, it's pretty much, I was designed to spread COVID, you know what I mean? It's like, so I'm kind of like thinking, well, can I go and in good conscience, even like outdoors, do that? So, and I don't know, because I don't see this going away. It's kind of like, I'm just thinking, how do we keep going on and stuff, especially when it comes down to the whole side of like live work, you know. It's good to do what we're doing to get by at the moment, you know, online stuff, but it's kind of like, how sustainable is it? How are people going to burn out? Like,
Oh, hey, I just woke up like this. Oh, hey, I just woke up like this. Hey, I just woke up like this. Oh, hey, Oh, hey, I just woke up like this. I just woke up. Hey, this? I just. Hey, oh, hey, I just woke up like this. Oh, hey, I
I think there are really exciting possibilities. I also think that we need a sense of community still to encourage, to feel safe to continue to experiment with that. But I'm not sure how that's going to continually manifest because it's hard running stuff. The digital burn is fucking setting in.
it can be hard, like, to make stuff. I mean, there's several, you know, there are several more processes that I have to go through to make things. If I'm thinking about making something for a video, than I had to go through before, and there's more in the editing side of it too. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like to actually have to run something like this. But my big concern is kind of like, I'm lucky in some ways that like I don't need to live off this. I can get by with other ways, but like there are people who it was a significant part of their incomes and stuff, and I'm kind of like thinking how many people are going to have to stop because they've got to, because this is like partly how they were feeding their family or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I am wondering how that's going to affect. I mean, maybe it's not going to be a thing so much for our world in a way, because a lot of people,
no audience world.
Yeah, people aren't relying on it. But I know some people are self-employed and have had to sort of like look for different work to get by. So yeah. I don't know how that's going to pan out. So
I agree, and I wholeheartedly believe that we need to be supported by the government, and we need to be supported by arts funders because they exist to fund and support artists. And well, I think it's still also a difficult question. It's going to be a very difficult topic to tackle because within arts and institutions we need to have an administrative structure because there are so many different things that need that side of the support as well. In our scene, which is a lot smaller, I'm not pessimistic, but I'm not optimistic. I think I'm just sort of like wearing a question mark as to where the hell this is all going to go.
I think it'll survive because a lot of people doing it are kind of like, in some ways, like they're vaguely driven to do it. They're kind of like don't have a choice but to make shit to some extent. But a lot of the infrastructure that just goes around, say, gigging, I think we're going to come out of that with a lot less venues, and they were a fucking problem already.
Yeah.
Before lockdown.
Yes.
And if we can ever use venues in the same way that we used to again. You know, like I can't at the moment see a way to like crowded, sweaty rooms anymore.
Relaxing? Is this relaxing? Is this relaxing? Is this...
Thanks for the conversation and for the interview.
Sorry.
I appreciate it.
I've been wondering.